telcos will not be able to get away with call drops anymore. Telecom regulator TRAI today began a clampdown on poor quality of service, including setting hefty fines on telcos for call drops. As per the new norms that are likely to be made public tomorrow, telcos will have to pay 1 rupee per call drop to the customer, although one can be compensated for a maximum of 3 calls per day. Sources tell your channel that the compensation clause will kick in very soon. That's not all. TRAI has set new parameters for quality of service for telcos, including fines of up to 1.5 lakh rupees for repeat quality lapses.
The tough posture comes after TRAI found absolutely no improvement in quality of service despite growing complaints from customers, especially in areas like Delhi and Mumbai. And telecom operators are not quite amused. While agreeing that a lot needs to be done to fix this problem, Bharti Airtel's top boss Sunil Mittal did tell reporters just a short while back that he's personally monitoring the situation very closely. The GSM lobby COAI, however, said that the new norms will only make it cumbersome for both mobile operators and subscribers to function. TRAI's game-changing norm to end the call drop menace, and what does it mean for you, the consumer, and also India's big telecom operators, is our top story right here on Business Tonight. But let's take that story forward with two very, very special guests right here on ET now. Joining us on Business Tonight, Rajan Mathews, DG of COAI, and Prashant Singhal, the telecom leader at EY. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for being with us. Rajan, you really have your skin in the game, so to say. Why are you opposed to compensating consumers for call drops? I hate it when my call drops. Why not compensate me?
So the issue of compensating the consumer is not a practice that is universally accepted. For one thing, I think it focuses the attention away from the actual issue at hand. First of all, let me say that as operators, we own the issue and we are committed to solving the issue. So that goes without saying. Now, if you look at this issue of compensating the consumer, there are far too many variables that have to be answered. So, for example, as far as our licenses are concerned, we are required to provide a certain quality of service outdoors. There's no requirement to have a certain quality of service indoors. There's no quality of service which says that when you get into an elevator, you need to have, a good call. We would strive for that. We are only required to cover 90% of the LSAs. When we can't get towers, that is sometimes beyond our control. So I think there's a plethora of issues that needs to be looked at holistically and say, let's go after those issues that can be fixed. Let's not distract ourselves with this.
Right. You know, Prashant, like Supriya was saying, every consumer in this country of a telecom service is anguished. You know, there's been a marked deterioration over the last 6-8 months in quality of services. So what's wrong if consumers get paid or compensated for these call drops?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong on a crackdown. I think it is very, so let's say as a consumer we suffer because of the quality of service and because of call drops, and I agree all of us are suffering and all of us have those call drops. I don't think there's any denial on the call drop problem. I think by putting in any kind of a penalty, whether financial or otherwise, is that going to solve the problem? I think that's a question to be answered. You need to put penalties where you believe that by putting in the penalty the issue will get resolved, and if somebody is not taking enough action to resolve that issue, I think the issue really is that are there enough number of sites which can be put in by the telecom companies. Of course, now, post the spectrum auction, there would be spectrum, and we know that there are investments which are being made by the sector. So the government, I think in the last 6 to 10 weeks, we've seen a lot of action, a lot of directives have been given for opening up the sites. I think the Honorable Minister has himself come up and asked a lot of the sites to be opened up in the government buildings. I think which is a great step. Now you need to move on that. You need to allow the municipalities to get the state municipalities to play ball with it to make sure that the sites can be put up and can be put up very fast. In which case you would see the coverage becomes seamless and capacity gets created. By putting in penalty, I mean, I agree that as a consumer, I may say that I'm not cheated, but if I see some telecom companies, they anyway have a plan where they are charging me by the second that I use. Okay, so is that going to solve my problem with the telcos?
Sure. Okay, Rajan Mathews, let's talk about the proposal that's at hand and what we're likely given to understand is going to become an order tomorrow. We're picking up from top sources that the regulator is likely to order 1 rupee compensation for call drops and it'll be capped at about 3 call drops per consumer. Your reaction to what could come as an order just tomorrow?
So, first of all, I think it's disappointing and, in our opinion, unnecessary, because I think we are focused on the issue. We are making the investments. We are building the towers. We have asked the government for more spectrum. The government is cooperating with us and giving us locations on postal offices, government buildings, and in defense property. So we are moving in there. But even if we get that permission today, Sandeep, it takes us 9 months to a year to get that relief on board. So there are improvements. It's going to take time. We are committed to it. And in the interim, let's focus on making sure that that investment is made there. Let me just give you some metrics, right? We have 1 billion connections. Let's say half of those are subject to the call drops. Let's be conservative. That's 500 million. If you take 500 million and say it's $3 a day, you can do the math. That's 1.5 billion rupees that's going to have to be paid out every day on a very conservative estimate. That's not the way to solve the issue of call drops.
All right, you're rather getting emotional there, but I can still tell you 1 rupee may not be feasible. But Prashant, the question is, what about the feasibility of implementing this order? The penalty of 1 rupee, all that is very good, but how can they ascertain if call drop is indeed genuine? I mean, what if I haven't just made an important call, disconnected, got done with it, and protest of this measure as a call drop?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to create a lot of changes within the telco. Remember, you know, calls being, I mean, when you have this kind of regulation, there are a lot of people who want to misuse that regulation. Remember that. So a lot of people will start calling the call centers. Suddenly the onus of determining whether it was a call drop or a disconnected call, you know, would be with the consumer or would be with the operator, and who's going to audit that will need to be seen. The call center will get flooded. The complaints will get flooded. You know, so it's not just about saying that let's put a penalty of 1 rupee or 3 rupees a day for an operator for call drops, but it is going to be challenging to make it feasible from an operator perspective. It is going to create more pressure on their call centers itself. It is going to have some, you know, level of frivolous consumers who would take advantage of you know, this regulation. You need to also understand it's a price sensitive market. We have a fairly large number of consumers in this market who are giving an ARPU of you know, $40 or $50 in a month. So their daily usage is less than $3, and they may use this way of getting that money back from the telcos.
I wonder if that's a point that the telecom regulator has thought about. It's a very valid point indeed. But Rajan, what impact will this have on telcos financially speaking? The fact that they'll have to compensate for call drops, and call drops are natural. They will happen because there is not so much coverage that does offer.
Yeah, so right now, 30% of every rupee that is earned by the operator goes back to the government in terms of some type of levy or fee. Now, let me just give you again a back of the envelope calculation that I just mentioned. We have 1 billion connections, right, all across India. Let's be conservative and say half of them experience a call drop. That's 500 million consumers. And let's say of the 500 million consumers, they experience these 3 call drops, the maximum. That's 3 rupees. So you multiply 500,000 by the 3 and you get 1.5 billion rupees every day that is supposed to be given to the consumer by way of compensation. So that's going to certainly hurt the consumer, I mean the operator, without adding any real benefit to either the consumer or to us, and it distracts from the problem at hand, which is fix the network.
Not sure about the lack of a real benefit to the consumer, but Prashant Singhal, quickly comment on that. Will this be just nuisance value for telecom operators, or is it going to have a significant negative financial impact on telcos?
No, I think it is really there would be nuisance value, and it would have a financial impact, but they would still be consumers, you know, like the ones, let's say there would be still those 20% of the consumers which will still not call the call center in spite of having a call drop. They would be, so they would have an impact on the revenues, but the nuisance value will be much more than the revenue impact. And when I'm saying revenue, if I were to take the direct and the indirect cost impact, now that could be substantial, because it's not just about giving the credit. As I said, you need to change the entire systems in order to make sure you keep on giving that credit, and you're able to detect that all these disconnections are through call drops and increase your capacity for handling the consumer complaints. So directionally, I mean, I don't get me wrong. Directionally, I think it is very important that we solve this problem of call drops. I mean, it is an issue. I think everybody realizes it's an issue, and I think the government, rightly so, has put a lot of steam on this over the last few months, which has caused the entire industry to start actively thinking about it. But the real solution lies in root causing the problem and then finding a solution, rather than maybe creating another penalty route for the consumers. And you also need to make sure that the consumers are not being overcharged. So anything which they don't use, they should not pay for it. And I think that's where we should drive the telcos to, which some of them have already done, that pay what you use. So you get into a granularity of 1 second or 1 kbps, and if you don't use it, then don't pay it.
I mean, the question also is, who has the time in the world to call up a call center and be on hold for 20 odd minutes there? But Rajan Mathews, if TRAI does go ahead with compensation being made mandatory, I want you to be candid here. Will you challenge that order?
So we will have to see the final order in terms of what is involved and what is required and how much is to be given to the consumer. Today we are hearing of it. The order is not out as yet. We will take a close look. We will take a look at what is involved. Is it, first of all, feasible? All right, it's a nice concept perhaps, but we've got to look at whether our systems can support this type of stuff. And the courts have consistently held that what is impossible to implement is not something that can be implemented. So I think we'll have to look carefully at what is required.
All right, Rajan Mathews and Prashant Singhal, thank you so much for joining in on that big debate on call drops this evening.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.